All right, I am so excited to introduce Kelly Cummins. She is partner and brand strategist of Rebel 1137 and co-founder of Creative Leaders Community. Welcome. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
being here today. I'm really excited to catch up and hear about everything that you have going on selfishly, and learn a little bit about kind of your mompreneur journey and the things that you're doing right now to just, survive, because that's what we're all still doing.
Yes, yes.
So let's kind of start at the start. What I like to do is hear a little bit about when your entrepreneurship journey started and when your mothering journey started, and kind of start with which one came first and then talk a little bit about how things changed when the other happened. So for some people, they had kids and then they started being an entrepreneur. For others, they were an entrepreneur first and then had kids. So just kind of walk us through that journey.
Sure, yeah. So I started, well, my background is graphic design. So I've always been a semi-entrepreneur, being that I've been freelancing since I first started working full-time, graduated college. So I've always had that like entrepreneurial drive, and I was working full-time in and out of different agencies, and then also doing freelance on the side until 2011-ish, and then I decided to go out on my own full-time and start my first company. And so very beginning of 2012 I launched that, and then got pregnant with my daughter that September. So I really didn't have that much time before having her, probably about it's a year. Speaking of child, here she is.
Great. Yay.
Didn't really have that much, about a year of entrepreneurship solo as a business owner before she came into the picture. And, I thought I could just adapt to it very easily, and I would just jump right in, having a kid and working full time too, owning a business. And I quickly realized that was not sustainable. So Saige pretty much went into a full-time nanny situation within the first couple of months of her being born, and that's really the only way I was able to sustain working as many hours as I was. So I had that, fortunately found an amazing nanny who was with us and ended up being my bookkeeper and I called her my life coordinator. So she ended up serving many more roles in my life than just hanging out with my daughter. So we had a really good setup, and then my work situation changed. I decided to rebrand my company and relaunch some of my services in 2017. And Saige was in school full time at that point, so I had a shift of not having a full-time nanny at that point. So that was a big adjustment of how am I going to manage all of these different roles that I hadn't been managing as much on my own before. And then so I was working doing Rebel. I was Crimson Design Works at first, and then I rebranded to Rebel. And then the pandemic came. Really, it's just been like, what am I doing and how am I going to restructure? And I really took this opportunity as a chance to really reflect on what is it that I really want to do in this world, and what is the impact I want to make with my business and the work that I do. So I ended up partnering with a colleague, and we started Rebel 1137. We just merged our businesses together. And so the moral of the story is that having a partner in your business is so helpful, especially when you're trying to manage all of the things of life. I feel like I've been really fortunate to have met Vanessa, my business partner, and to really launch into this new chapter of what our business is doing and serving in the world.
That is really exciting. And, it is tough. And it sounds like, you had to kind of go through all of these different changes and iterations to find what worked for you at that moment. And I think that's something that obviously, we've both experienced, but I hear a lot from people who, especially moms who are thinking about starting a business, where it's like, well, you know, how do I coordinate everything? And I'm used to this kind of very structured, like I go to work and they go to
Mm-hmm.
daycare, and maybe that's changing for whatever reason. So what advice would you kind of give to a mom specifically who is considering starting a business, and how she should kind of think about, you know, you talked a lot about flexibility and being able to change based on the certain circumstance that you're in. Kind of what advice would you give to somebody who's wanting to start a business right now?
Start a business right now with kids. One, congratulations, welcome to the crazy town. No, it is the best thing. For everybody's lifestyle is different. I do know that you really have to reflect deep about what is important to you, as far as your ability to handle uncertainty and risk and live in a land of instability. There's a lot of, I don't know what's going to happen with this month with clients. There's a lot of, I don't know how much it's going to cost that goes on. And when you're trying to manage all of that stuff with your business, then you also have the, oh my God, I don't know what's going on with my kids uncertainty. You really have to just reflect to make sure and take care of yourself, that you can handle that level of risk. Now, if you think to yourself and say, you know, right now you're like, oh, I don't know if I can, there are things you can do to like build that resiliency. So, and that looks different for everybody, but really take stock and be honest with yourself to know like what can I handle right now? And don't put such pressure on yourself to like scale quickly or get a bazillion clients. I mean, I know we see all those success stories of people who like grow like, you know, to $1 million overnight, but it takes a lot of time. I feel like I am 15 years now into my career, and just now, after all of this time, feeling like I'm actually doing what I set out to do. And it took many iterations and a lot of patience and a lot of effing up to like figure it out. So that resiliency muscle that I have is well trained, and I've been building it for half my life. So it's not something that's going to come overnight.
Right. And speaking of resiliency, whether or not you are an entrepreneur, almost everybody who has children got thrown into, if they weren't an essential worker, they essentially got thrown into being at home with kids and having to work. And whether that was for themselves or for another company, they're trapped at home for the first time in a long time. And it's something you and I talk about a lot, because we've been working from home with kids around for a while. So what would you kind of say to the mom or parent who is still struggling, who is like, I've been doing this all year and it's like not getting easier?
Yeah. For the parent that's, whether you're working full time for a company or whatever your situation is, and you're managing working kids, just breathe. Just breathe a lot. Create as much structure in your schedule. I know I plan my week every Sunday. So I have two planners. I have like my personal planner of my like self-development and what I'm doing to like take care of me. And then I have my business and life planner that is, you know, coordinating like, you know, I'm sure we'll talk about this in a few minutes, but, you know, like right now my kid is going to a homeschool co-op. So that's a couple days a week. So it's like, who's driving her and how's she getting home, and what's, you know, all of that. Like even my workouts are scheduled into my week so that I don't go crazy thinking that I'm not like doing all the things that I want to do. So that being said, as much structure as you can create, also be understanding that shit's going to change in a drop of a dime. Like you got to be flexible too. So again, all of that's really just self-reflection and knowing what you can handle and respecting that and communicating that to the people that you depend on to help make your life function. You know, like my husband, he doesn't know what he doesn't know what's going on in my head. So if I don't tell him like I'm feeling overwhelmed with like managing all of these things, I can't expect him to read my mind to figure out like what I needed to be doing with Saige or whatever. So I'm really all about like there's the soft skills part of this. Like you just gotta like really tap into yourself and what you need, and find people who not find people, but find your own voice in communicating all of that to support what you need, and creating that structure and lack of structure for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I think we all have a lot of balls in the air, and, you know, I find that it's easy to look to the outside and say, geez, you know, this mom on Instagram, her resume is 1,000 things long. But then I start to look at myself from an outside perspective, or even using you as an example. You know, it's like, I know you well. So I know kind of everything about how it's chaotic, and, you know, you're excited, but it's crazy, and, you know, all the different things. But at the same time, if I kind of take the bird's eye view of it, it's like you are have decided to take your kid out of normal virtual school and homeschool them yourself. You are doing yoga teacher training. You have 2 essentially new companies. And most people would say, that sounds ridiculous. Like,
Yes, it kind of is.
and I think sometimes that probably is ridiculous. But I don't know if you ever feel this, where it's easy to forget all the things that you do because you live it every day. And it's easy to kind of get distracted and look at other people and say, oh my gosh, they're doing so many things. But if you wrote down your things on a resume, it would look really fancy too. And so I don't know if you ever feel that way, and what you kind of do to hype yourself back up, because it's easy just to feel like, oh, I'm not doing all the things that I see other people are doing.
Yeah, well, very simple solution for me is, and this was triggered by watching The Social Dilemma on Netflix. I deleted all of my social apps. So for the past, it's only been a few weeks, but I feel so much lighter not knowing what everyone's doing. It's kind of weird to be like, I'm like, because I'm not knowing what everyone else is doing, I'm just doing my stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, yes, I will go on purposefully and like check in and see what my friends are up to and what they're posting. But I think it's just, again, it's like being mindful of what you're intaking. You know, if you're looking at everybody's highlight reel, I mean, we all heard this, like, of course you're going to feel shitty because you're looking at everyone's highlight reel. You know, if you were to look at your own highlight reel, you'd be impressed with yourself. But,
right.
You know, there's science behind how our brains can, it takes, I think the numbers are like, it takes 1 or 10 positive reinforcements to counteract 1 negative. So like 1 negative thought. So think about that. If you're taking like, you know, how many times a day do you tell yourself like something negative or compare yourself to somebody? Like, it would take 10 times that in positive reinforcement to make yourself neutral again. So like, why are you subjecting yourself to things that are like creating negativity?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, so that's part of it. I think it's also just really doing the work you're internally to like, you know, be proud of what you're doing and really connect with that. And that just takes time. It's not something that happens overnight, but you got to start somewhere.
Yes. And I've been trying to personally get back to my gratitude journaling at the end of the night. It's so easy to give yourself the excuse of busy or tired. And, you know, for me, with having a 4-month-old baby, I just let it. I was like, I don't have time for this. I'm exhausted at the end of the night. I can't possibly do it. But when you think about it, it's like, okay, the alternative is, to your point, sitting on social media. It's not like I'm immediately going to bed. It's not like I'm so tired, I just need to lay down. It's like, okay, instead of taking 5 minutes to journal, I'm scrolling for 20 minutes. So what is the point? And you have to get over that initial hump of making the effort to create the habit. And then once you get back into the good thing, I think it goes a little bit easier.
Definitely.
So what kind of overarching has been the easiest and conversely hardest thing about being kind of this mompreneur in general? So just thinking about the fact that, you know, you you have a child and you are an entrepreneur and you kind of are juggling all of this, and especially now kind of thinking about COVID and the fact that we're all have been at home for a long time, you know, what's been great about it and what's been kind of not so great about it?
Okay, so the different answers pre-COVID and post-COVID, but
Well,
I'll
yeah.
well, not that we're even
Do
post-COVID, but
no,
I'll
but
talk
do
about
both.
during COVID. Okay,
Yes.
well, pre-COVID, the easiest part was the fact that I had, I had a lot of help when I had a full-time nanny, so that was helpful. That was important at that point in Saige's life and in my journey. And the easiest part also was the fact that I could make my own schedule and be part of things. And yeah, that was like the easy part, the fun stuff, the fact that I could like decide what I wanted to do when I would do it. The hardest part, God, there's like a bazillion things. The hardest part of pre-COVID was, I think it's just the juggling of all of the different things, and the financial stuff, of course, is always, figuring that out. The business development piece is always hard. I don't think it's one particular thing. I think it's like I had to do a lot of work to figure out where my strengths lied and where my weaknesses were, and really being honest with myself about those things. And it took a lot of time to get there. And when I did start to see some clarity in that, then when I was resisting all of that growth and all of that, exploration of myself and figuring that out, that's when it was hard. When I was like, I'm really good at money. I know what I'm doing. And then when I had the realization, like, I'm not as good at it as I thought, and I really need to pay attention to that, then it was like, okay, it got easier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or I think I'm going to be I really want to learn how to do this. And this is going to be an offering for my business. And I'm going to, research how to make this happen. And when I pushed against something that I really it was not a passion for me, then it's when I finally had that realization of like, this isn't really what I actually want to do. Mm-hmm. This is over here what I want to do. And this is what I need to lean into more. Then it became easier. So I think listening to listening to myself was really like a big wake up call for me.
And as an entrepreneur, what's your stance as far as advice on, if you're not good or strong at something, should you figure it out to do it? Or should you just immediately get to a place where you could outsource it? Because I think that's something that comes up a lot in entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. Like, do I become good enough, or do I just say, let me make some extra money and find someone else to do it?
Yeah, good question. I think I think you have to get clarity on what you know you're good at, and then when you have like that list of things that like you are capable of doing, but you really don't want to do it, you outsource that. Mm-hmm. And then you have the things that you don't know how to do, and then you can like dig a little deeper into those things you don't know how and be like, is it something I need to figure out because it's going to better me? Is it going to better how I do my work? Is it going to better my practice, or whatever your thing is? And then if it's not something that you need to do to better your own, what you're providing, service you're providing your clients, then like, one, just don't do it. Like, don't do something if it's not necessary. And if it is necessary for the growth of your business, or the leveling up, or what the orchestration of how your business operates, and it's still something that you don't want to figure out, then you outsource it 100%. Like, I didn't want to figure out how to like pay my taxes, so I hired a tax accountant from the very beginning, because I have benefited from the fact that I have a great relationship with my tax accountant, and she has educated me enough that I know enough to like make the decisions and talk about what I need to be doing, but I don't I'm
have to get in the weeds of it every year.
I'm not trying to get in the weeds of it at all. No way.
Yes. Okay. No good. Way. Good to know. So back to easiest and hardest. Now that
Yes.
COVID has hit us hard and we're just realizing that we're swimming in this thing for a while, what has been, I'm not even going to say easiest because I don't think anything's
Yeah.
been easy about it, but what's been something that you've been able to say, you know what, I'm thankful for this? And then what's been something that you still are like, we've been doing this for 8 months and why am I not getting a
Yeah.
handle on this?
Okay. Easiest would be, it was a very natural transition for me to go working from home full time, more full time, because I have been doing it pretty much my whole career. I've been a remote employee and business owner. And the other easy part about it too is I am very much an introvert. So when all of the social stuff shut down for a while, I was like, whew, my schedule cleared up and I can do more yoga and I can like read a book.
Well, you have been
like,
so busy too. So
yeah.
it's kind of like, all right,
It
let me
was
take a
it
breath.
was a nice break. Yeah. And we, I got the social interaction that I needed and felt I wanted to be participating in via Zoom. We had plenty of stuff going on with that. So I felt like I had all my buckets filled. The hardest thing has been, now that we're still in this, I think it was really, for me as a mom with a grade school kid, it was going that transition back to the school situation, making that decision. I didn't realize how much that decision was weighing on me all summer long. What if this happens and what am I going to do and how am I going to handle this? And am I making the right decision? And da, 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 da. So, that was always churning in the back of my head. And that put a lot of stress on me that I didn't really know was there until I had that moment of like, oh, I really need to take care of myself and pull back and like really reflect on what I need to think about. And so that whole emotional, mental transition was tough. And then it got into when it actually happened, like what the decision was that had to be made. We decided to put her into like a homeschool co-op. So came together with a bunch of other families and we hired an instructor or a facilitator. And, we're all like kind of figuring this out together. And that like transition of how am I going to manage her and just the natural schedule shift, like schedule shuffle of who's taking who where when whatever, and trying to do it all at the same time. And timing wise, like things just kind of land, and I had client projects that kind of stacked, and then I had launching this other new venture that I'm a part of that launched at the same time, and then Saige back to it, just all like compiled in the same 2.5 3 week period. And I'm like almost at the end of that section, so I'm feeling good about that. But it's just the ebbs and flows of like some days are high, some days are low, and I really wouldn't put a pinpoint on like one particular hard thing. I think it's just like managing all of the things that are happening.
Yes. So speaking of managing, what are some of the things that you do now for self-care? Because, things are still shut down and you largely have to kind of come up with self-care on your own. So what are some of those things that you do?
I do yoga as much as I can. I don't get a lot of alone time. So my alone time is I have 2 dogs. So I walk my dogs for an hour, at least a couple times a week. It's the only time I get alone. I read a lot. I listen to podcasts like It's Nobody's Business. I started this new journal called a monk journal or a monk manual. Monk Manual is the brand. And it's all about like reflecting on, like there's like a gratitude list and reflecting on like the impact you want to have on the world. And, a lot of that is like yoga philosophy pulled in there, but when you can take a step outside of your own shit and like think bigger, that pulling back, that scaling outside of yourself, getting that balcony view, as people say, like that is all part of my emotional mental health. you want to call it self-care. Like I'm much more of a mental, emotional self-care person than I am a physical self-care person. I do all the physical, I run, I work out, I do yoga, all that stuff too. But it's more for me, like if I'm mentally and emotionally well and I can take stock of that, then like my other self-care, physical self-care stuff, which is really just like human care, like we should just be doing that as a part of our natural rhythm anyway, kind of falls into place better.
That makes sense. And
Yeah.
I think that's smart. And I think we do kind of dial in too close and think about it in terms of, oh, I need to take care of myself, physically or whatever. But really, if you start out here,
yes,
the rest of it just kind of comes, and you have more
Yeah.
mental energy to even think about doing
to
the
do
rest
the
of it.
things. Yeah. Because what happens when you have your list of physical self-care, you check all those boxes and then you beat yourself up if you don't go work out or you don't get to do your yoga practice or meditate or whatever it is on your list. And then that's like causing more harm than the meditation itself did good. So
Yes.
you take care of your brain first. And if you wake up in the morning and you are tired and you're like, I need to sleep an extra 45 minutes to be able to function best today as my best self, then don't force yourself to get up and work out. Like just really be truthful with where you are at. Only you are the one who can suffer the consequences of making the decisions that you make.
Right. That's true. That's very true. So let's talk a little bit about your businesses. So tell us what Rebel 1137 offers.
Sure. Yeah. So Rebel 1137 is a brand strategy firm. So what we do, we work with clients, small business owners, and mid-sized business owners to really get clarity on who they are and tell their story. Right now, a lot of business owners are in a position of, what are we going to do for 2021? How are we going to pivot? What are our new offerings? And before launching all of that stuff, what we can help provide is, getting some clarity and taking that step back and say like, well, who are your clients? What is the story you want to tell? Why are you doing this work in the first place? And then create all of the language and messaging and values and all of those things around it to then help you prepare to launch that message into the world. And we also partner with agencies as their in-house creative brand strategy team to help their clients build the same kind of thing, get clarity on who they are before launching like a new website or a brand or something like that.
Awesome. Very cool. And then you have a new project. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So my new project is it's called Creative Leaders Community. And it was inspired. I met Sabrina, my partner in that business, and she also has owned her own business and worked with women entrepreneurs her whole career. And we just really have a passion for wanting to help women become the best versions of themselves and level up their leadership abilities. I believe that every woman is a leader, whether it's in your business or with your team at your corporate job, or even just at your house with your kids and your family. When we do, like, leadership skills are really life skills. And, this isn't the normal, here's the things that you can do to make yourself a better leader from a typical leadership role. A lot of the leadership training that is available out there in the world is very masculine driven. It's very much about pushing and being hard and standing up against people. It's a lot of resistance and it's very masculine driven, I think is just the best way to put it. And we all know as women that we are different. We operate differently. We function differently. We lead differently. And we need a type of conversation about leadership that's different. And there really isn't anything out there that is this cohesive program that brings women together to do this leadership development. So we created one. And It's kind of multifaceted, or it is multifaceted. It's based on it's kind of like the style of a book club. So there will be a book that we focus on, but you think of it more as like a supplement to the content that we're working on. We've coined this term like reluctant leadership. What we've in our experience is a lot of women are reluctant to step into that leadership role because of whatever their insecurities or imposter syndrome or whatever it is. So we have several phases that we have found that women go through and as part of that leadership development process. And the first phase that we're focusing on for November is grow your confidence. So we have a book, we're reading The Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates, which the theme of the book is when women come together and are given leadership opportunities, and the world is a better place, and that we won't survive, especially now in our world as it is. We won't survive as a community unless women are given those opportunities to rise. And then there are small groups. So we're calling them circles. So the larger group of women will be broken into a small circle, and that's who you'll go through this program with. There is a workbook that has journal prompts. It has exercises that you'll be able to participate in. We are having 4 live meetings virtually. So we'll be doing group participation in all of those exercises, having book talk discussions about all the different things we're learning. And then one of the live sessions will be a live workshop from an expert speaker that we're bringing in on a particular topic. So it's a lot. It's 6 weeks long. It's a lot of learning. One of the foundational things about what we feel people need in general, but especially women, is to instill that passion for learning. And as we go through our lives and grow into these different roles that we have, mom, daughter, business owner, manager, whatever, we put ourselves last and forget that learning is really our key to growth, and curiosity is what we need to inspire ourselves to continue becoming bigger and better people. So this program is all about that. It's inspiring learning, it's inspiring creativity, it's inspiring curiosity, so that you can then step into those leadership roles in your life and into yourself as a leader with more confidence, with more purpose. So we launch right now. Enrollment is open. We have a limited amount of seats available. So right now you can go to creativeleaderscommunity.com and sign up there. We launch November 5th. That week is our launch week, and you can register until October 16th.
Awesome. Well, I will be signing up, and I'll be sure to share the link. I'm really pumped about it.
Yes.
I will say, just for anyone out there who's like, oh, that sounds great, but it's so much work. I am excited to sign up. 1, to support Kelly. 2, because it sounds amazing. 3, because I've read the first book, and that's probably the biggest one. And so just to bring it back for everybody who's feeling overwhelmed and thinking, I can't do another thing. That's how I'm able to add another thing to my plate. And I actually am in a book club that met yesterday. I didn't go. I also didn't finish the book. And I've realized that that's also something you have to come to terms with, of it's okay if you don't finish the book. And I think for me, that's just mantra of my new during COVID life is it's okay if you don't finish the book, and that just goes for all the things.
Yes, yeah. And the program, when you look at it, as I'm talking about it, I know it sounds like a lot, and it's also part of the process of becoming a leader is stepping up and doing the work. So stepping into that uncomfortableness of yeah, this is a lot to take on, and I'm having to really reflect deep and discover parts of myself that really kind of suck, and holding myself accountable and all of those things. So, as much as the actual action that you will be taking as part of the program, is, you know, is purposeful, the exercises themselves, the journaling prompts themselves, but it's also like the entire experience that you'll be growing and learning through it.
Yeah, that's so smart and thoughtful, because oftentimes, just like in parenthood, we sometimes just have to do things, you know,
Yes,
whether we want to,
exactly.
whether they're hard, we just have to get it done. Awesome.
That's
Well,
it.
I
Yeah.
am so happy to have talked with you. I'm
Yes.
so excited for all of the things you have going on. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insights and wisdom. And I will make sure to put in the YouTube comments all of your ways to find you and learn about the things that you're working on, so people can connect with you further.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much,
Talking with
Kelly.
you.
All right, goodbye.
Bye.